My name is Laura Prather, and I'm a former president of the FOIFT and the current co-chair of its legislative committee. And I have the pleasure of presenting to you the Lawmaker of the Year awards this year. But before doing that, I wanted to recognize a couple of other people in the room. We've got Senator Don Adams, one of the authors of the original Texas Public Information Act. And we have two of the most outstanding staff people I've ever dealt with at the Capitol, Kelsey Erickson and Katie Aldridge, both of whom work for Senator Watson and for Representative Capriglione. And you can tell the quality of a lawmaker by the quality of their staff, and this is top-notch right here. So today I have the sincere pleasure of presenting to you the recipients of the Lawmaker of the Year award, and both of these gentlemen are exceptional at what they do. They've fought vehemently for increased transparency in the state of Texas, and we are very fortunate to have them at the forefront fighting for our cause. Representative Giovanni Capriglione, who is in his third term at the Capitol, representing District 98, and you can get the basic background information from the little handout at your table. It will tell you that he currently serves on the Appropriations Committee, of which he is the chair of the Subcommittee for Budget Transparency and Reform. It'll tell you he's on the General Investigating and Ethics Committee, vice chair of the Government Transparency and Operations Committee, and on the Local and Consent Calendar. What it won't tell you is what I want to tell you, which is what it's like to work with this gentleman. You walk into his office, and there's not even a desk. There's a table for you to sit. There's no barrier between you and him. If you've ever seen the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, this will resonate with you. Representative Capriglione is our Jefferson Smith. He stands for his ideals, he speaks from the heart, and he has relentless passion for his beliefs. And those beliefs include that accountability in government is of fundamental importance, and it starts with the ability to see how the government spends taxpayer money. He is seen as a leading advocate of ethics reform, passing legislation allowing the public to see who benefits financially from dealing with the government. HB 1295 from the 2015 session was one of the few ethics reform measures to pass, and it requires disclosure of interested parties in the state and local government contracts to have that information listed in the Texas Ethics Commission website. This last session, HB 501, requires officials themselves to make disclosure on their personal financial statements filed with the Ethics Commission if they make money off of government contracts. Because of his efforts, now anyone can go to the Ethics Commission website and see the connections lawmakers and governmental entities have to the contracts that they are voting on. Last session, the very first two bills that Representative Capriglione filed were for the purpose of undoing the Boeing and the Greater Houston Partnership rulings. Both of those rulings effectively closed off access to information when private companies or nonprofits do government work. He fought until the bitter end to try to get these measures passed. Ultimately, he was unsuccessful because of an obstreperous committee chair, but he has lived to fight another day, and hopefully the committee makeup will be different next time. In Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Jefferson Smith posed the question, have you ever noticed how grateful you are to see the daylight again after coming through a long, dark tunnel? We are in that long, dark tunnel, having virtually no access to how our taxpayer dollars are spent, and very little ability to hold government accountable. Yet we are grateful every day for the leadership of Representative Capriglione in navigating us through this tunnel and helping us to see the daylight again. Representative Capriglione, I don't have a briefcase for you, but I do have the Lawmaker of the Year award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I want to start by thanking you, Laura. Working with you in the interim and in the session, and hopefully in the interim again, and in the session again, just your tenacity, your knowledge of the topic was just invaluable, and absolutely appreciated that. I will say this about Mr. Smith. His name was a lot easier to say, so he definitely had a heads up on me. I want to take the time also to thank the Freedom of Information Foundation of Texas. There's very few organizations that, as a lawmaker, I agree with 100% of the time. And I think that's because of what they stand for, which is the First Amendment. They stand for freedom of the press. They stand for freedom of speech, the things that the rest of us lawmakers have all sworn to defend and uphold. Their activities and their work towards making sure that the public gets information and access to that information that I think they're personally, there shouldn't be question about that they should have, is of utmost importance. And they provided the resources and the information so that others can follow in their footsteps. Too, want to thank, from my office, Katie Aldridge, who is taking pictures right now, but she does 90% of the work, and there's probably no one in the Capitol that I've worked with that knows as much about this, that's worked as hard about this, and really understands the issues. I'll say what got me involved in this, right? So before I even thought about getting elected, about 10 years ago, I had been put on this citizen advisory committee for a local government entity about the budget. So I went to one of those very first budget meetings. So now I'm on there, I'm a taxpayer, and I said, well, I'd like detailed information about the budget. And they said, well, you'll have to file an open records request to do that. Like, that's odd. So I went home and I Googled it to find out what that meant. And I didn't know anything then. I know just slightly more now. But I really got focused on that. And so I started filing a lot of public information requests. And it's just today, to be honest with you, that was about almost 10 years ago, and that I'm here today accepting an award from Freedom of Information and for my activities on that as a lawmaker. I'm just so incredibly honored. I'm humbled. And I look at it not as an award for what we've done, but for what we're about to do. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you.